We're live. Okay.
It's table talk.
Table talk time at Table Life Church.
Exactly.
At the Table Life Church office.
Tables,
today,
all the tables, and lots of fun.
And counters.
And counters.
Our
yes.
coffee counter here in the office at Table Life Church.
Here we are.
There we
yes. Are. Yes, and Becca's on vacation,
so
we're just
taking
over. Yay! So much fun.
That's great.
And it's almost Christmas in July.
Yeah,
I brought my happy Christmas mug.
Well, today I brought my Harley Davidson mug.
Oh, you got your bike back.
I got my bike back from the shop. I've been out riding it, and it's going to be a beautiful day. So I'm thinking that after I'm done today, I'm going to disappear in the mountains for a little while on a motorcycle and enjoy myself a little bit. So
awesome, very cool, very cool. Yeah. So we. I guess wrapped up the series this past weekend.
Well,
with Joshua, at least it was my.
If you say it's wrapped, it's wrapped.
It is wrapped. It is wrapped. Yeah, we're just doing the first part. I mean, we could do the whole book of Joshua. It might take a while, but I just love the book of Joshua. Just so many of the stories, and I know a lot of times in church that a lot of churches don't preach through the Old Testament. They tend to gravitate more towards just the Gospels and in Paul's letters and all, but I just appreciate so much that the Old Testament scriptures have to offer, and understanding them really frames how you see Jesus and New Testament.
Well, and I think to even the point in your sermon was really important is that I think a lot of people avoid Old Testament preaching because they don't know what to do with the image of God in the Old Testament.
Right.
They get that kind of we serve the God of the New Testament kind of picture. And I think it's important to realize, especially what you said yesterday, is that sometimes God has to stoop to our level.
Yeah.
And that sometimes I think it's good for us humans to realize that God even works with us whenever we get it wrong. I think the Old Testament can help us with that. I mean, it's a minor point of what the Old Testament is, but I think it's an important point is that, God develops with us. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit too open theology for our
it's
stuff.
a little much, but but just thinking of that though, I mean, that idea itself is compatible with, not even more than compatible, but it goes directly with who Jesus is, right? Because Jesus meets people where they are, and even the Pharisees get all mad at him because he's having dinner with these sinners and tax collectors and all these people, but Jesus himself subjects himself to that, and he doesn't shy away from that, and that's, I think, consistent. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. Consistent with God in the Old Testament scriptures. That even more so stoops down to the point of working through and with all these circumstances, and even reading further in the book of Joshua. So we talked about the story of Jericho, and then that little short story that happens right before it with the commander of the army that really frames it, but even if you fast forward afterwards and how it basically, it's like a roller coaster. And that's our relationship with God, right? It just that, we're obedient sometimes, we follow, we're in, we're totally driving with him, and then all of a sudden we decide to go a different way or take things in our own hands and we mess things up.
Right.
And that's Joshua gets into that too. Joshua's this epitome, and Jesus even called the second Joshua, so he's kind of held to a high standard, but he fails and messes up. And so I don't know, it gives me comfort to know that.
That God's at work even whenever we don't always get it right.
Right.
That's great. Yeah. So I guess the series was a new season, but this particular message was about different. I think was the word that you used, and in your message you talked about people in general, individually, as a church, as this country in a lot of ways, the world, coming out of the pandemic, it's a new season, it's different, and so I got to confess something first, is that I'm going through some new seasons in my life, and so there was a moment somewhere in the early part of the sermon when you were talking about that where I kind of it became personal. So I had to go back this morning and rewatch the sermon.
So
to be able to kind of say, okay, what were the things that I missed? So, but one of the things that came to mind as I was rewatching it was, and I felt like that you were saying this, but might be something to maybe talk a little bit about, is that our culture sometimes where we live is that sometimes we just do different for different sake, you know, and especially the image of the commander of the Lord, you know, and how it was like, I'm not on your side, I'm not on their side, I'm on God's side.
How confusing that must have been for
Joshua. Yeah, that's just crazy.
Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. I wonder how this story in your mind can help us avoid the mistake of just doing different for different sake, you know, just because, well, we never did this, do it this way, you know. We talk about all the curmudgeons in the church, and like, we've never done it that way before, you know, the 7 death words of a church, right? But the other side of it is that I think, especially as you start into a new season, you're anticipating different. And I felt that there was some wisdom in what you were saying about, it's not just different for different sake. It's like, look at the landscape, you know. So I didn't know if you could kind of elaborate on that.
Well, and I think it connects to that whole idea of the that I talked about at the beginning, the similar but different. The pieces that there's continuity here, and then all these kind of segments. I mean, every story that we've been going through, there was something from the rule under Moses that connected or was a parallel or was similar in that way, but that this turned out a little bit different, or that God was doing something similar but then actually brought something different. And I think that's the richness of it is, and I think that's how often you can tell if like, are you just doing something just for the sake of, like sometimes people want to like start over, but it's just for the sake of completely starting over, and they didn't almost need to do that. I mean, like sometimes in the recovery community, you know, you do have to break those ties, and like that's a hard thing. But there's other times it's like people just like cut off all connections to their past, when their past could actually be an enriching connection to their future. And it doesn't mean that you do everything that was from before, but I think like looking at what have been like the good parts of that, what have been the things that you've either learned or grown yourself in that, and then the difference comes from either a different approach or a sense of call, or I think it depends where it's coming out of. You know, if it's just a sense of like, I don't want, like, I want to be different than what I was before, and I'm going to go do this on my own. I think that's a good point to just kind of question like the why. Why are you entering into this? Like, if you're choosing that new season, and there's a richness in being connected to the past, even the hard stuff that God uses, and so not throwing that away either. And then I think in the life of a church, like to be able to look at the past and how you know, we might not be doing things the exact same, but let's celebrate it. Let's not worship it.
Right.
Let's celebrate it, and let's use it as a foundation to build off of.
I think it's good. I like that. I think it's good. There was what was the thought that you just had that I just had whenever you said that, is that, you know, the temptation is to I know what it was. Now, it was the part of the sermon where you were talking about, and I think it was kind of about, it was the a different approach to people. That was the point. And this idea of thinking about that we may be in new seasons, but not for ourselves. And I was really thinking a lot about that last night and this morning, is that, you know, and of course it made me think of Paul's, you know, statement in Philippians where he talked about Jesus taking upon himself the form of a servant, and that whole idea of disposing of our own will and our own desires for others. How important is that for a a community of faith whenever they're attempting to move in a forward direction. I don't know if you had any additional thoughts beyond what you said on Sunday about that idea, but it was one that really stuck out to me. So.
Yeah. Well, I think I think that hits home for all of us, because we're so I'm so me centered.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about me, and it's all about and I hope this is not breaking news that your pastor is it's all about me, but we're all like that.
What? You can't be.
but we see through our own eyes.
Wait a minute. Is there a possibility you can't walk on water?
I already said that. No walking on water here. I sink. I'm sorry. But we just get so absorbed in our own thing, and that's how God created us, right?
Mm-hmm.
we need to do that for our own safety. We view things.
Right.
God gives us discernment, that kind of thing. But it's just the whole idea that it's not always about me, and it's not always about even us. And I think even just thinking of this new season as a church, as Table Life Church, there's probably going to be some sacrifices ahead for others.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even people that haven't been here or aren't even here yet, or a part of this, or that are new, or that kind of thing, to say, hey, you know what? In this new season, I might have to put aside some of the things that I want and I like for the sake of someone else, because this is what's going to connect them to Christ or help them grow and learn Christ. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a balance too, is just that I think approaching things with humility. And just as in Philippians, which is actually going to be the next series we're going to go through, just approaching even our own new seasons that we're entering into with humility and eyes to see, hey, this might also be for somebody else. It might be a family member, it might be a neighbor, it might be my spouse, that we're entering into this, and it might not be actually my choice, and that's okay, because God's in that too.
Sure. So, as you know, maybe not everyone watching knows, but one of the things that we have here is a counseling center at the church, which I run. And you used a question in your sermon that, of course, really caught my attention, because it's a question that I deal with in the counseling office a lot, and that is, what if? Now, you used it as, what if these positive things hadn't happened that led me to this? Yeah. But it also made me think about the what ifs of, what if I hadn't done this, as if, what if I would have avoided doing something bad? This feeling like somehow I can't be used by God because I made bad decisions, the flip side of that. Because I tend to hear that more than the positive side, Right. And I was thinking about, as you enter a new season, your first sermon was, don't miss out on the beginning, the idea that as we enter a new season, to be able to let the what ifs go. And I didn't know if you had some more, insight, because as much as we can look back and say, oh, if God hadn't done this and had done this, I wouldn't be here. Right. We can also look back, if I, what if I'd have listened to God? What if I would have listened to God? But now here I am. Kind of thing. So I was seeing the opposite,
Yeah, that's good. So. That's good. That's all a part of the journey. And well, I think with those things, whether it's good or bad, I think the commonality is seeing how God has used it. Mm-hmm. Or what God, or maybe not even used is the word. Maybe it's just what God has done because of that, or in spite of it. Mm-hmm. In spite of, hey, I took my own road and took my own direction, but guess what? God was with me and he pulled me back, or he, sent this person into my life, and had a hard word with me that I needed at that time. So I think it's a sense of tracing God's fingerprints on those things, even despite my failings and where I've been and what I've done, and saying, even though that God has still been there and hasn't left my side and still continues to pursue and desire. And that's the part, it doesn't go to waste, to not waste the beginning, but not to waste where you've been either. And I think like that's where those like regrets and things, but come in. But like moving forward though, I think you can also look at use those things and say, if I don't do this, will I have that regret? To almost frame to say, okay, I look back and I have these regrets that I shouldn't have done this. What if I wouldn't have made that choice? Well, looking forward, am I in the middle of something that I will regret? Because I'll be at that place, 10 years from now, whenever that is, doing the same thing I'm doing now, looking back.
Right.
So using that as the filter and the help that God has given us too. But I think good, bad, ugly, just the continuity to say, despite all of that, God's still got my back, and He still pursues me, and He still has good things ahead for me and for us. Yeah.
You wrapped up your first series at Table Life Church. How did it feel?
It was fun. It was good. I think when I was just discerning what the new series should be, it's always a hard thing because it's like, it's my first, it's like the kickoff, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, I want to do this well, but also connect with where people are, and that's where just that prayerful listening comes in as I'm trying to figure out like what scriptures to use or what direction to take. How is that speaking to our community at this point? So yeah, I felt like I was also preaching myself, and that's usually the best.
You're in a new season too.
Season 2, yeah, and I just totally connected with Joshua and this, where he was and going through, and I think that's the richness of scriptures, that it continues to speak, and God's Holy Spirit through that continues to speak, and even to us thousands of years later, which is amazing. There's nothing else really that does that. So
good.
Yeah, so I'm excited for the next series.
Well, I was just about to ask you, do you have any teasers for us for our new series?
Yeah, so starting Sunday, we're going to go through, it's going to be 7 weeks, I believe. We're going to walk through the whole book of Philippians, which is a shorter book. Right. So we're going to jump to the New Testament, and it's one of my favorites, and as we've been alluding even here, just Paul's really words of encouragement to the Philippian church. And the title is going to be Underdog, tying in with kind of where we are with the Olympics coming up.
Okay.
And I know people are going to be watching all the different sports and things, and really taking that perspective of what it means to be the underdog, and how the Philippian church was really a underdog church.
Yeah.
They weren't seeing a small community, lots of things going on in their context. But yet Paul is speaking that encouragement to them, but also reminding them of certain things too. So I'm hoping that God will also use that and speak to all of us, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I have yet to hear the word proclaim that it doesn't do something good. So
exactly.
I'm looking forward to it. So
awesome.
Great.
Okay.
Well, wrapped up Joshua. We're about to go Philippians. So
yeah. We'll see where we go.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Let's do something different.
Yeah. Where'd you get that from, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like a theme or something, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
So, great.
Well, thank you guys.
All
Thanks
right.
for joining us with Pastor Jeff, and hope to see you on Sunday. We have lots of great things coming up, whether you're local or watching this from
and even if we don't see you, you can see us online. So
yes,
that's right.
There we go. Awesome. Take care. Have a good week, guys.
Bye-bye.